Hello there, you're very welcome to The Breakdown on the Racing Post digital channels in association with Ladbrokes. It's weekend 4 of the Guinness Six Nations and we're here to try and talk you through the weekend and what may happen from our perspective. And when I say we, I'm talking about these three people alongside me in particular. On either side, wearing number 7, Dominic Ryan, wearing number 6, Stephen Ferris, and wearing number 8 in the middle is Nicola McGeady from Ladbrokes. You're all very, very welcome indeed.
Thank you.
Let's start with the table, and as things stand, this is the way we look. Wales in control. And Stephen, let me start with you. Were you surprised with what they did against England?
I think it was slightly. The way England dominated Ireland and, been cruising, so to speak. And I thought, at a 10-3 half-time lead, England would carry on and dominate that game. But it was amazing the way they turned things around. A little bit of ill-discipline from England, let Wales back into the game. But when they got their noses in front, they just seemed like they were always going to win the game and England weren't going to come back and try and snatch it at the end. Very, very dominant performance. Warren Gatland came up with a game plan to win the match, and it was, keep the ball alive and wear them down, and that's exactly what Wales did. They wore England down, and that physicality that we've seen in the Aviva Stadium in the first game, it was almost like the tides had turned because Wales physically dominated the English side. So yeah, it's fantastic to see them at the top of the table. I didn't expect to see it. I expected England's name to be at the top, but me being an Irish fan, it's not a bad thing always beating England.
Let me go to you, Dominic. A stopped clock is right twice a day. You were right about France in the end.
Yeah.
France did what they had to do, but Scotland were poor, weren't they?
Yeah. Well, look, I think the absence of Russell at 10, as we said, Entmac and the young lad Dupont at 9 and 10, bringing that energy, bringing that kind of desire. Again, bringing the hunger. These people are new stepping into an international jersey and they're really eager to impress, really eager to put the jersey in a good place. And that added a lot of energy to the team. And I think, look, we'll talk about it later, but it could be in a bit of trouble this weekend.
And Nicola, I was right. Italy again beat the spread, and they didn't perform particularly, or Ireland didn't perform particularly well on the day. Is there still money for Ireland, or people sitting and waiting and watching?
They're waiting and watching, and very much this weekend. I expect Ireland to do really well and cover the handicap, but in general it's all been one-way traffic for England. Even though they lost at the weekend, they're still 4-6 favourites for the championship. But Wales, it's the Grand Slam that they're looking at, and they're 7-4 to do
right,
it.
so there's only 2 options on the Grand Slam market now.
4-9, no Grand Slam winner is the other option.
Can you see Wales winning the Grand Slam?
I can see the Wales winning the Grand Slam. Yeah, of course I can. Yeah, I've been in the situation that they're in, and when you get that momentum, that's what it's all about. They're playing Scotland obviously this weekend, and they've got everything to play for, and all Scotland's really got to play for is a bit of pride at home and try and build something going forward towards the World Cup. But for me, when you're riding that wave, you got to keep on riding, and I think Wales are going to be very, very difficult to beat this week and next week.
Well, let's have a look at the Six Nations market, and we'll get on to the individual games in just a moment. England 4-6. Would you be going with Wales at this point, Stephen?
I think so. Yeah, I've just been in so many of those guys' shoes back in 2009, and there's almost like an invincibility about the people, and Wales just seem to, they're missing a few players. They're chopping and changing the odd time. They threw a lot of guys for that away game in Italy, and everybody was kind of saying, "Oh, Wales aren't at the races." Bang! They're back with a vengeance at the Principality Stadium.
Do you think there could be a complacency about them? You say the momentum and the kind of confidence, but
I don't think you get that with one Gatland.
I was just about to say again the same thing. I just don't see a Gatland team being allowed to become complacent. But what I'm interested in here is 14-1 for Ireland to win the Six Nations. Now I know where to, but here's the scenario: Scotland beat Wales this weekend, and it's open again. There might be a little bit of value. All right,
I appreciate and like your patriotism. Maybe,
Ireland win with a bonus point this weekend.
Yeah, I'm clutching at straws. I know I am. Let's get on to.
I'm sure Ladbrokes would be delighted to lay it.
Yeah, we would.
Honestly, though, I've written down here: can Scotland throw another spanner into the works?
Sure.
This competition this year is just throwing up so many different surprises, with Italy starting to play better rugby, Ireland getting the big defeat in the first game at home,
Wales going on and beating England,
being 10-3 down at half time. So it wouldn't surprise me if there's another couple of upsets.
Let's have a look at the Scotland-Wales game to start us off, and it's a +4 for Scotland, and they've named a team, and in that team they've made a change with Ali Price coming in and dropping the captain to the bench. That is a massive call, isn't it?
I think Ali Price has been going well, going well for Glasgow throughout the year. Maybe Greg Laidlaw the last two kind of, Ireland, and then again last weekend didn't quite put things together, a bit sloppy. Maybe Price, he's a quick player, he got a really snappy pass off the base, and maybe look, they're hoping that he'll drive the kind of forwards around the pack, around the pitch, apologies, and maybe that's what they're looking for, a slight change up, but who knows. I think Russell is the big one back in there again.
Yeah.
I mean,
let's have a look at that. A look at that Scottish team in general, and you also look in the second row, Johnny Gray and Grant Gilchrist. Like they have on paper WP Nell back in the front row. On paper, they have the ability here, particularly at home.
They do have the ability, and I think Ali Price being selected at 9 just to up the tempo.
Yeah.
That's the way Scotland like to play, is lots of tempo, lots of pace in their game, but they got to be accurate. I think against Ireland they just weren't accurate enough, and if you're going to drop balls consistently, then you're going to underperform and you're going to struggle. So that'll be their team talk all week. If they can produce quick ball and limit those errors, then they're going to be dangerous. They're going to create line breaks and they're going to score a couple of tries. It's whether this Wales team is more equipped than they are to get the result, and I think it all boils down to what I said earlier on about that confidence and where each team currently sits in the table and what they're fighting for.
Sure, and that Welsh team has just got one change in it with Adam Beard coming into the second row. I think we can have a look at the Welsh team now, and maybe the biggest talking point, and I'll start with you on this, Dominic.
The one I'm disappointed about.
Yeah, is he's continuing with.
Well, yeah, I said it before the England game. Last week I said I don't know why. I think Davies and Biggar's the best partnership. You'd see the size of the applause he got when he came onto the pitch. Shows you how much he's liked by the Welsh fans, and for a very good reason. And he comes on and pretty much changes the game. I mean, he's kicking up and unders, catching the ball like a fullback. I think he absolutely changed the game, and they go up to Scotland and he's on the bench.
But are they going to need his impact off the bench again? Will he bring that experience to try and close out a really tight game come the last 10 or 15 minutes? He's a British and Irish lion. He's been there. So for me, I think it's probably the right call, and it keeps the confidence again with Gareth Anscombe, who we all know is a quality running player, and maybe it's going to be this open game with Finn Russell, Anscombe.
It'd be fabulous to see.
It's going to be fabulous.
Yeah, it'd be absolutely fabulous to see. I'm interested on only 4 points. I mean, I think people are going to be surprised by that. Scotland at only +4, because the form book suggests it should be a lot more, isn't it?
It should, I suppose, home advantage and everything like that. And I'm quite surprised of how our traders have priced it, given the injuries that Scotland have suffered. They weren't disgraced against Ireland or France, and yeah, it's going to be absolutely friendless in the betting. I've no doubt about it. I think Wales, to cover that handicap, 4 points at 10 to 11, is going to be really popular, even in the match betting. 8 to 15. It's still not as short as I would have thought. Scotland are priced at 7 to 5 in the match betting. I suppose the only thing you said, I think the last time they were at Murrayfield, they lost.
Yeah, they lost 29-13.
Things have changed. They're a much better side. Confidence is sky high, and as I said, they're gunning for the Grand Slam. Okay, but
let's call this one, each one of you individually. Dominic, you?
I'll go for Russell to pull the strings, +4.
Russell.
Not overly confident, but +4.
So Scotland to say, okay, the +4 is where you're
going.
Go
for the +4.
What about you?
Wales to cover the handicap.
Okay.
Yeah, Wales to win. That's.
We need. Come on, give us. Come on, Wales to win. I'm not letting you tip a 1 to 2 shot or 8 to 15 shot.
Anything in the try scoring markets.
I'm just going Wales to win.
Jumps out.
Try scoring.
Try scoring markets.
I reckon picking out of a hat is your best option.
Well, look, there's the new man, Darcy Graham, in at 10 to 1, and he gets his opportunity on the wing for Scotland. George North is always in with a shout. Like it's a wide open.
Scores
market.
a lot, doesn't he?
Yeah, Kinghorn does. Yeah. He does score a lot. I have to say to you, you guys have been right about France eventually. I think I'm going to be right about Scotland eventually, and I'm siding with you on this one. I think Scotland are going to be better than people think, and they're going to give Wales a really, really close run. If not beat them, I just have a sneaking suspicion for Scotland. But we'll see. I've been wrong so often.
So no Grand Slam's a good bet in your eyes?
No Grand Slam's a great bet in my head. All right, let's move to the second game of the day on Saturday at 4:45. England against Italy.
They're great odds, aren't they? Yeah. Betting.
You guys are really generous on this one.
It's a big margin.
But I tell you now, the 33 points, and if I'm going to take credit for any advice in the last couple of weeks, it's been on Italy, because I think Italy are not actually getting. They're not far away, Stephen.
Yeah.
Like they weren't, Ireland were poor, a little bit
Ireland
off
were
their
very
game,
poor.
but Italy were significantly better.
Dominic and I sat here a couple of weeks ago, and we were like, anytime we seem to go on Italy, they let us down. But they haven't this last couple of weeks. I can't remember what the spread was.
Against Ireland,
yeah. 35, wasn't it?
Similar anyway.
Yeah, it was 30, 35. Yeah.
Similar, and Italy only lost 26-16. So I think there is massive improvement in their game. They're making lots of line breaks. They're creating lots of opportunities. They seem to be defending with a lot of heart and passion, a lot of grit and determination. And they got clapped in last year. They just seem to be in a much better place, but they're still losing.
Yeah, sure.
And
you can't get away from that.
If England stick a score on them here, it almost feels like Italy's back to square one again. That's kind of where they're at, because they've lost 20 consecutive games in the Six Nations. And I just feel England are going to do a number on them. Willa is going to be 33, did you say, Nicola?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think if England can get 10,
let's have a look at the
maybe
England team
15
if we
points
can.
on the board, or Italy, plus that 33, I mean, England need to get up to the 50s.
He's fairly changed his tune, Raoul, hasn't he?
The plus, yeah, well, I have to follow Ron, you're right.
Careful. Let's have a look at this English team. You look at that back line. Okay, take Ben Youngs out of it, but Owen Farrell, who is no small man, and then Theo Tuilagi. It is a frightening midfield in particular, isn't it?
220 kilos centres, yeah. The combined, yeah. Probably bigger than me and you put together.
Bigger than our background.
Yeah, frightening. I mean, when I saw it on paper, it's kind of, and Kogasanga Singa on the wing as well. He's huge man as well. He's 112 kilos, and then Johnny May is all about pace. Elliot, on paper, it seems just incredible. But could it be too incredible?
It's funny because Owen Farrell's kicked the ball. England have kicked the ball more than any other team in the competition, and Eddie Jones, always used to give Ireland a bit of stick about kicking the ball too much. I think that they're going to run the ball an awful lot. They're going to get these guys with the ball in hand and get them going forward, because that's what they need. They need that go forward. And Ben Teo, Manatualangi, Johnny May, power. That's absolute power.
Then even to add to that in the pack, I mean, Sinclair, Genge, probably one of the best carrying front row in the Premiership, if not in the Northern Hemisphere of the world.
Brad Shields back in there as well.
I'm not convinced by him. Are you?
Yeah, I thought it was a strange selection.
Strange selection.
They didn't win last weekend, but Wilson's been doing the dog work every single week. He doesn't do flashy stuff. He does a load of dog work, and maybe Shields is getting a bit of a leg up getting on there.
Well, we'll see. It'll be interesting to see. I mean, again, I guess a lot of the coaches, if not all the coaches, when playing Italy, have made a decision to try one or two things that they possibly couldn't try against other opposition. So that one will be interesting to see. Let's have a look at the Italian side, and it's an Italian side that has Parise back. Surprisingly, that man Geraldini is down on the bench. He was very much the leader when Parise wasn't there last week. But again, Tibaldi played well. That back line from 12 to 15 looked very, very strong. Stain and Negri in the back. I like the balance of this side. Do you?
I mean, Italy traditionally have a good scrum, but Genge, George and Sinclair and the big pack, big back five behind them, they could just, if they dominate them in the scrum, the England line-out's been going well.
But the Italian line-out's been absolutely fantastic.
The Italian line-out's been the best in the tournament,
and some of those guys seem to be enjoying the defensive line-out as well. We watched Ireland struggle last week. Sean Cronin first line-out over the top, and then it just went drastically downhill after that. So there's matchups between both. Some of the second rows and back rows flip the coin over to England. But I just feel that the English team's going to have too much power. But as I said earlier on, I'm not sure 33 points is going to cover it. Yeah.
Well, let's have a look at the try scorer market now as well, because that man Johnny May, not surprisingly, 92, right? He's been on fire in the tournament so far. Yeah. Outside of that,
well, I like Jamie George maybe for
back of a maul or something.
Yeah, back
of a maul many times. I was up covering the Ulster game versus Zebra there a couple of weeks ago, and the hooker, got 3 tries in the first half. So
how much did you have on him?
only had him for a double, unfortunately. But no, so sometimes any time, you know, somebody a hooker like that, but Jimmy George is always worth a couple of quid for me to get over from a maul try.
There's a special again this week, right, on first try scorers. Yeah, the first try
yeah,
scorer, double the odds.
In this game, just specifically, Johnny May to score 2 tries in the first half was 9-4. That's going to be boosted to 3-1. So lots of people will be interested in that one. Double the odds if you're winning first try scorer scores a second try at any time as well. So there's lots on offer. And also, I would say that we are going to be looking to lay England in the handicap market, because as you discussed at the beginning, Italy have done so well. You know, they were ahead at half-time against Ireland. They cover the handicap markets already against Wales and Scotland. So you'd have to...
And Ireland. So they've covered the handicap every time.
So we are going to take that approach and lay in. And
this will be head in the hands on the weekend. We go on plus 33 and it's...
I think sometimes too what you got to take into consideration that you don't take into consideration with other sports is the weather. You know, when it comes to rugby and it comes to betting on rugby or trying to predict a game, sometimes looking at the weather conditions can definitely shorten the odds. If it's lashing down with rain, you know, and the next thing, you know, England's, they're going to keep it tight. You know, there's going to be turnovers, there's going to be spilt balls, the game's going to be very slow. So, you know, if you are thinking of having
it's really good, because the forecast for the weekend isn't great on these islands in particular, and then that Jamie George at 10-1 might look like good value if England are keeping it tight.
Corners,
Absolutely. Okay, so let me ask you to call this one. I'm going to start the other way, give you time to think. Stephen.
I'm going to say 25 points for England. I think they'll run away with it in the end, but you know, Italy will
33
or
33, yeah.
No, but I'm going to go for.
He's going 25.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I'm going to jump on Raul's bandwagon for a change. You've been right the last number of weeks, and give Italy a bit of credit because they did play well against Ireland, even though Ireland were disappointing. So yeah, long story short, I'm going to go with Italy plus 33.
Okay.
I'm Italy to cover the handicap, 10-11.
Okay.
Pretty boring.
Head in hands, Italy plus 33, yeah.
Oh, excellent. Have you all on board? I may not be back next week. Right. Let's have a look then at the Sunday game, which of course is Ireland against France, 3 o'clock in the Aviva Stadium. And I think this is a remarkable statistic, is that France are naming their same team for 2 consecutive test matches for the first time since 2012, and I've got to credit Jerry Thornley in the Irish Times for coming up with that particular statistic. But it is remarkable to think this is 2009, 2012 since he named the same team back to back.
What, 65 odd games, is it?
It is truly remarkable. Yeah. Anyway, they are unchanged, and they're plus 13. Yeah. I now, if I'm looking at the Scotland-Wales one and wondering about the plus 4, I've got to say I'm wondering about the plus 13 here. Are you?
I mean, yeah, it is. It looks like a bit of a bet, all right, given how I was quite convinced by France against Scotland, even though they did have a bit of luck in the side, and Scotland obviously had injury worries. I imagine it's going to be one of the most popular bets of the weekend. Ireland, they haven't really got going in their tournament, but surely it's only a matter of time, though, until their class really shows, and they have an almost fully strength squad to pick from as well. So there's a lot of patriotic people around as well who just expect Ireland to hammer them.
I think 2 weeks ago, though, that was plus 17, and the way things have been going, maybe people realise 17 is a lot of points. So you can see, obviously, a lot of people are backing that plus 17, or the plus side anyway.
Sure.
When you consider France have 4 disallowed tries, 4 disallowed tries against Scotland, and if they find a bit of form, I mean, my favourite bet of the weekend would be the plus 13.
Yeah, I mean, it's just to come back to your point about the weather. It's supposed to be particularly filthy in Dublin at the weekend, and France have a big pack, and it absolutely restricts what Ireland may want to do and may not be able to deliver. Yeah. It's a real leveler, right?
It is, but I think Ireland are going to bring an intensity that we haven't witnessed over the last number of weeks, and they got to. I think everybody's getting on their backs. I think they're struggling for form. Sexton, Murray, key players just aren't pitching up, and then big game players that we've talked about over the last number of years for Ireland have always turned up, and they haven't over the last number of weeks. Now they've only lost 1 game, that's been against England, but they're struggling for form. But they've won 4 of their last 5 against France. France haven't, lost 9 of their last 11 away games. So when you look at the stats, yes, Ireland should win this, but by how many points? So I'm going for an Ireland victory. It just really depends, as you say, Raul, on the weather, and that 13 plus 13 for France probably looks like a good bet.
But the Irish team hasn't been announced yet as we're talking, and and the likelihood is that Gary Ringrose is going to come back into that, into the midfield, and there may well be a recall for CJ Stander, Josh van der Fleer. We could be looking at a significant proportion of the team that beat the All Blacks a couple of months
Levy
ago.
could be back in the mix as well.
Yeah, well, maybe it might be a week too early for him. We'll see about that. But are you expecting a bounce back from Ireland?
I'm expecting
bounce back in terms of form.
Bounce
back to
they
November.
They don't have to win by 30 points for a bounce back.
No,
because if France, I reckon, are good. France are going to come. They're going to play. They're going to play a good game this weekend. And as you said, doesn't have to be a thrashing. But I just want to see Ireland go through their processes. You know, go from set piece to set piece. You know, play around the field with a bit of confidence, with a bit of like solid execution that we haven't seen yet. The Six Nations. Love to see that. But I'd also love to see France be within 13 points.
But if Ireland limp over the line, I think the media are going to get on their back. You know what's going on. A bit like if England don't beat Italy by 30 or 40 points, the media are going to get on their backs again. So I think it's time that they go out and put in a performance that everybody starts talking up Ireland again, and that's what they need.
It's interesting, isn't it? When you look at all three matches, there are issues for lots of the teams to resolve. England have got to bounce back from what was a surprise. All of a sudden they were going to be world beaters again, and then they got stopped in their tracks. If Wales don't do it against Scotland, questions start to creep in there. If Ireland don't perform, or if France don't perform, like there's so much. How much do you read into this tournament versus what's going to happen in September, October in Japan?
Yeah, like
do you read much into it, or do you just accept it's a different time, different group of players, it'll be a different attitude?
I think the concerning thing for me over the last 6 weeks is our team's starting to figure out Ireland. And that would be the concern for me going into the World Cup. So they usually play this very pragmatic game, but with this pragmatic game, if errors creep into that, then you're on the back foot an awful lot. But defensively, like 14 line breaks, Italy made against Ireland, 2 weeks ago, and that's just insane. And the amount of errors that crept into their game. So I'm expecting them. They've got so much quality in there. I would like to see a few changes, like somebody like Tag Brown coming in, who's been outstanding for Munster, such an athlete. You know, playing at 6, putting Henderson into the second row. Yeah. If Devin Toner's fit, we're not sure about Devin Toner. If he's fit, play him in there.
He won't be fit.
Dev won't be fit.
Dev won't be fit. So just mix it up, and they've got so much quality there, and I just think that other guys deserve an opportunity.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. I mean, if you're not getting the performances from the kind of same tried and tested, why not? Tyburn has been outstanding. I mean, 2 years in Scarlet, he's probably the best player 2 years in a row. He's in Munster.
But it's almost like you have
I don't disagree with your
I
don't disagree with either of your logic. But you've met Joe Schmidt, and you know what his template is. He's not going to make monumental change.
But why do you have to earn your stride? Like, why do you have to consistently for, was it the last Munster games? He's had 3 or 4 man of the matches so far this season for Munster. I watched them against Leinster down in Thomond Park where they won. Munster won, and he was superb. And I just can't get it. Was he close to being man of the match over in Chicago? He was unbelievable. Like, he's sitting scratching his head going, what do I have to do to get
He bide his time. He will be, when Dev moves on in a couple of years, he'll be there every single week, but for the moment.
Okay, well, let's talk about the market and where you're going to come down, lady and gentlemen. What are you saying? Nicola, what about you? What's your sense?
I think France definitely plus 13.
Yeah. France plus 13. It's hard to get away from that, and I hate the thought of it, but it's hard to get away from it. Stephen?
It is hard to get away from it.
It's France plus 13.
Like, I've written down on 10 to 15 points for Ireland. I think they'll win more than a score. I don't think it's going to be, the crowd are going to be nervous come the last 10 minutes. I think it's going to be in the bag. But again, 13 points if the weather's bad, that's a lot of points.
That's the thing. I think, if you look at weekends as a whole, sometimes you see a lot of rugby scores. If the weather's bad, will all be low scoring games, and that's when the plus comes in. So because of the weather, it could be kind of a plus weekend,
Okay, all right. So we're all going.
Better the weekend would be France plus 13.
France plus 13. Okay, well, listen, folks, appreciate that. Have you anything that you want to add to this in terms of final markets?
I think you're happy,
yeah?
I think we've covered
We've got everything. Don't forget, I suppose the most important thing is
it's a good weekend for the bookies like last weekend.
I think Sheldon will be all right.
You're about to have your 10 days. You're about to have your 10 days. Listen, thank you very much for joining us. We look forward to your company next weekend, and enjoy the Guinness Six Nations with us and with your friends this weekend. We look forward to your company next.